Popp from KAP for the Heart, and today we're going to talk about heart conditions in youth and young adults.
All right. So like a producer.
His eyes
Her last name.
her smile. Miss her friendship. Everything.
I miss how much he enjoyed life.
Sudden cardiac arrest in youth is not rare. It's the #1 killer of student athletes during sports. It contributes to the #2 medical cause of death under 25. And it's the leading cause of death on school campuses. People think it just happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. But the truth is, sudden cardiac death in youth can be prevented. We just have to be prepared. So the question is, if we can prevent our kids from dying, why aren't we?
Yeah, why aren't we?
Why aren't we?
Why aren't we? Why aren't we?
For more information about what's being done to protect young hearts in your community, visit your local sudden cardiac arrest prevention champion.
It doesn't matter how many times I've watched that video and tried not to remember what I miss about my son. I miss his sarcasm. I miss him checking in on me at night and me checking in on him in the morning. There's so many things I miss. And if you look at this poster here, we made this for our first Heart Walk team. You would have never known that he had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, that he had heart disease. I didn't know. He went to the doctor once. Doctor said he had high blood pressure. I was not aware how to treat high blood pressure. I was not aware that high blood pressure could cause a heart attack, even though I had grandparents that had heart conditions. So our mission, as you heard, is to provide awareness about heart conditions in youth and young adults, especially athletes, because we're seeing more and more children die on the football field. As you saw in the video, there were several athletes involved. So that's our first goal, is the awareness. The way we've been doing that so far, I go to fairs, festivals, farmers markets, these events as well, just to get the word out, because that's where we start. We're a little fish in a big pond. One day we plan on being a big fish in a little pond. So that is our goal about raising awareness. Our next step is to get a partnership with Cincinnati Children's Hospital, because they are the leading heart hospital in Ohio, as well as Nationwide Children's Hospital. Both hospitals are certified to treat hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, as well as heart defects and congenital heart defects in adults. That's where we started. And then we want to go into providing assistance to families and young adults who need to get to proper treatment. Again, if I would have known, how would he have gotten the proper treatment? I remember him coming home. He goes, "Oh, Mom, my heart has a little problem. It's just a murmur." Well, when he went through a major auto accident in his senior year, it should have been diagnosed at that time. 6 years later, he passed away. Or not even 6, 5 years later, 5 years after his graduation, when he should have been graduating college. And then eventually we want to move into advocacy, having patient advocates go into doctor's appointments with parents or with children, with the young adults, because I know my son wanted to take charge of his medical care. So we want to be able to have somebody in there saying, okay, this is what the doctor's saying, here are the repercussions, let's get a treatment plan into place with you, and have nurses and nutritionists work with you as well. As part of our assistance program, I did a little survey. I said, what do you need? Moms, dads, Go Red for Women. what do you need? And they said, we need meals prepared for us, heart healthy meals prepared for us, so we can just pull them out, stick them in the, in the oven, or warm them up. We need help with our older children. We need help getting them off the bus. We need someplace for them to go, someplace to help them do homework as well, especially if you're going back and forth to the hospital. It's very difficult to always meet the needs of your family. And finally, one response was, we just need somebody to come mow our lawn while we're facing these difficulties. The other is, how do I get back and forth to Cincinnati Children's, or if I need to go to Cleveland Clinic, how can I afford that? And we're really focusing on the median to lower income families. Not that income plays a huge part, but I know when my son was diagnosed with a heart murmur, we had a $9,000 deductible. And I'm a teacher. We don't make that kind of money sometimes, even in a year. So that's where my idea came from. We have become partners with Parent Heart Watch Network, who is a national network focusing on preventing sudden cardiac death in youth. And as you saw in the video, there is a plan in place to make that possible. We just held our Spring for the Heart benefit, and I'm so happy. It was super successful. We raised $4,700. That's what we netted after all was said and done. We had 9/10 of everything we did donated, which for me is incredible in year 2. And then our next events are coming up. Again, I'm doing the fairs and the markets. So if you go to the farmers markets or some of the festivals like Vandalia Oktoberfest, we will be there. We're also forming our Heart Walk team for the Greater Dayton Heart Walk. We do donate a proportion of everything we raise to the American Heart Association and the Parent Heart Watch Network. So it's not just what we're doing, but it's how to be a part of a nationwide movement. Sudden cardiac arrest and heart disease is the #1 killer, more than the top 5 cancers in the United States. It's not only our diet, it's these heart conditions often go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. In the future, we plan on having heart screenings, like heart screening rallies, so families can bring their children and get their hearts screened through an EKG, echocardiogram, through MCOR athletes. Another event we have coming up this fall is a poker run and rally. So it's going to be a motorcycle ride and a rally. Volunteers are always needed. So that's part of having a nonprofit, is having volunteers. This year we're working towards having our own 501c3. Currently we're working under the Dayton Foundation. The difficulties with working under another 501c3, it's harder to get donations. So we have to prove that, yeah, we're legit, we're registered with the state of Ohio, but sometimes that doesn't always go far enough. And then in October, we're going to hold a Halloween murder mystery dinner. Or a murder mystery evening is what we're calling it. So it's going to be kind of like a Halloween party, but everybody's going to come dressed in period. So those are a couple of the fundraisers that we have coming up in our future. Again, this was inspired by my son. I didn't know. If he would have been screened in high school, he'd probably still be here today and I wouldn't be doing this. It really, I don't know a lot more to say than this can be prevented. And we need to start including cardiac screenings for youth in the wellness checks. We need to start like New Jersey does at age 5. And legislation's slow, but that is something we're going to be working towards, is including that in part of the wellness checks in the future.
New Jersey mandates that?
Yes, starting at 5 years old. If it's not every year, it's every other year, because it establishes a baseline, and if there's a problem in the future, they can track it. Just like you do with MRIs and cancers. Being a 2-time breast cancer survivor, I still have to go every few years. I need to go once a year to get my blood tested and have a cancer screening. So that's something that we have to follow up on. every year. So again, it's preventative care, and that's another thing that we plan on pushing is that preventative care. There's so much that can be prevented, and we need to get out there and show that. So any other questions?
In the case of your son, so what was his diagnosis?
Heart murmur.
A heart murmur. So what would they have done? So you're saying that it really wasn't identified correctly.
Right.
What would have been the treatment for it if it had been identified?
I think if it would have been identified properly, it would have been identified as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And we could have
Is that medication?
medication, would have been the start, eventually possibly a heart transplant.
Okay.
And if you know anything about heart transplants, the long-term medications that patients have to stay on are astronomical. So that's where we want to come in and provide that assistance. Sometimes it's the choice, do I pay my DP&L bill or do I pay the doctor's bill? Or do I get the medication this month? You know, and that's a tough choice. And American Heart Association has said, and here in Dayton, we have people calling us all the time looking for help, looking for assistance in cardiac youth and the young adults. And then even going into the Go Red movement as well.
Did you get this?